Well, what about Operation Early Dawn? Because obviously we had the rioting, Keir Starmer acted very quickly, a load of people went to prison, but the prisons are full.
This is a really, really difficult one for Keir Starmer. The public, if you poll the public on prisoners, again and again and again, you see that people feel that prisoners should be treated quite harshly. People do not like the early release of prisoners. Keir Starmer has tried to frame this as the Conservative government left us in this huge mess. There is nothing we can do but release prisoners early. It's not gone down very well with the public. The public, interestingly, I would have thought perhaps Keir Starmer's response to the riots was pretty fierce, but actually some of the public think that he hasn't gone far enough, and very few think that he went too far. So it's going to be quite difficult for him if, you know, this early doors thing happens, you get lots and lots of prisoners released, then you've got rioters being locked up. There won't be any appetite for those rioters to be released early, and so you just get into the same situation.
Wait, so child RAPIST, there's appetite for them to be released, but the rioters, I mean protesters, I think, including like are they mixing the protesters with the rioters? There's no appetite for them to be released. Okay, sure. Let's see what's yeah, okay. By the way, don't just hold the politicians responsible. The UK public, a lot of them who are supporting this fierce reaction to people who have their wrong belief or wrong views, that's also, I mean, at the end of the day, the politicians are somewhat a reflection of the people. And I know some people are going to criticize me for that, saying like, no, not in the UK. I mean, in the UK, the number of seats that you get in the parliament is not actually a good representation of how popular you are, because of the way you guys do your elections there. But even with that, at the end of the day, they did get some votes. It is a reflection of what people want, no?
Again, and of course, what happens, you know, all journalists will be watching with a hawk to what happens to those prisoners who are being released over the next few weeks. If any of them go on to commit a serious crime quite soon, and the stats show that that is very, very likely, then Keir Starmer will have a real problem on his hands.
Hey, that's what I said. Yeah, I said it's very like you're going to release these people, and at some point, somewhere, somebody's going to do something stupid. So some of these people who have been released, and then Keir Starmer is going to be like, what? You released this guy, now you are responsible for this crime, right? Isn't that what's going to happen at some point?
The stats show that that is very, very likely, then Keir Starmer will have a real problem on his hands.
It's not just the... I was just trying to say that the Prison Officers Association... I can't speak this morning. The Prison Officers Association are blaming the Conservatives for this mess and saying it's an inherited thing. This isn't actually Keir Starmer's fault. It's not just Starmer that would be making that point. And they say that the Tories closed 20 public sector prisons, they didn't build enough new prisons, and they didn't create enough prisons.
Hey, I actually don't feel bad about sometimes, you know, some of the words are a tongue twister for me. This is a native English speaker, and she couldn't say association. So this makes me feel good about sometimes not being able to say certain words. I'm going to just play that part one more time for my own sake, because I enjoyed it.
Serious crime quite soon, and the stats show that that is very, very likely, then Keir Starmer will have a real problem on his hands.
It's not just the... I was just trying to say that the Prison Officers Association... I can't speak this morning. The Prison Officers Association are blaming the Conservatives for this mess and saying it's an inherited thing. This isn't actually Keir Starmer's fault. It's not just Starmer that would be making that point. And they say that the Tories closed 20 public sector prisons, they didn't build enough new prisons, and they didn't create enough prison space, and people are serving longer sentences. So do you think people at home will look at it and think, you know, I agree, actually, with that. This wasn't the problem that Starmer has, you know, it's an inherited problem.
Well, there certainly is an element of that, but it's not just a practical thing. And I think the fact that, you know, Keir Starmer, he can make the argument that the Conservatives left him in this mess and he has no choice but to do this. But his new prisons minister, Timpson, James Timpson, who set up Timpson's, the rehabilitation chain shop, he philosophically, fundamentally believes that fewer people should be in prison. So I think that sort of undermines the point that the only reason that Keir Starmer is doing this is because he has no other practical option but to release prisoners early. So I wonder if that will filter through to people sitting at home. Obviously, most people won't know the political opinion specifically of the new Labour prisons minister, but there is certainly a philosophical belief within the Labour Party, this Labour Party, that prisoners shouldn't be in prison for as long as they are.
Okay, so now let's listen to himself. Listen to what he has to say about all of this. So what is the context of this one? And we're going to fact check a lot of these things. Okay, so Starmer's strategy on public safety. That's the context for this video. So let's watch this one.
Prime Minister, is there any risk to the public safety from Operation Early Dawn, either in terms of policing operations that...
Why are they calling it Operation Early Dawn? Is this sounds like a you know, the first few minutes of a movie where like this doesn't it sound like a beginning of a movie where it starts which is giving you the highlights of how things started and how everything went to shit. You know, like they called it, you know, somebody comes and explains a story where how we got to the point that we are right now, like everything has gone to shit, and then the speaker comes like they called it Operation Early Dawn, and then this happened, and then this happened. And at first, people were optimistic, and then things went to shit, and now we're like, it's the end of times. Is it Early Dawn? Like, is this like a movie? Like, is this real life? This is weird. Like, I don't know. Like, it's very Hollywood-like, isn't it?
Prime Minister, is there any risk to the public safety from Operation Early Dawn, either in terms of policing operations that may now be postponed or from prisoners being granted bail who would otherwise not have been?
Well, these decisions are really tough decisions, and nobody wants to take them. They're difficult decisions.
Yeah, it's very difficult. Should I keep the criminal in prison, or should I let the criminal go and put somebody in prison that has said something for wrong belief, for having put somebody in prison for having the wrong opinion? Very tough decision. Yeah, that's a doozy. Like that's a head scratcher. Tough decision. Okay, like somebody who RAPE'd a child, or somebody who said something racist on Twitter. Very difficult decision.
Granted bail who would otherwise not have been.
Well, these decisions are really tough decisions, and nobody wants to take them. They're difficult decisions. They're having to be taken for one reason, and one reason only, and that is the terrible inheritance on prisons that we had as an incoming government from the previous government. There was a basic failure, which is a failure to have enough prison places for the number of prisoners that were being sentenced to prison. That is about as basic a failure of government from the previous government as you could possibly have got. We've had to deal with that with the additional strain of the disorder of recent weeks. But as I hope we've been able to demonstrate, we've taken tough decisions. We've been able to prove that if you commit disorder, you can be expected to be put through the criminal justice system quickly, and we will continue in that vein. But I'm not going to pretend that this isn't a challenge. We will take the necessary tough decisions on this, but we should never, ever have been put in a position that we're in today. Thank you so much.
But with respect, you haven't...
Yeah, okay, so let's say, here's the thing. Let's say he's correct. Let's say it's not his fault that, it's not, he is correct. It's not his fault that the prisoners are this full. Yeah, he just got there. He just got here, right? But given that you have such a challenging situation to deal with, why the fuck are you arresting people for thought crimes, right? Like, you're making it worse. Yeah, so you have been receiving a very, messy situation, but should your priority now be to arrest people for thought crimes given this messy situation?
Answered, is there a risk to public safety from this new operation?
That risk, and of course, these are tough decisions. But I think you've seen over the last 2 or 3 weeks the way in which we've approached this, which is to make sure that any risk is mitigated, to make sure that we do have the spaces available for the prisoners that we need to be held in prison. We've managed that against very difficult circumstances, I can tell you. And for my part, I think the response of the criminal justice to the recent disorders has been a major reason that the disorders have subsided for the time being. Thank you.